because I don't want to make it just about Marc.
Yeah.
But Marc is there because people turn their back on him. Marc should not be on this podcast. He gets the opportunity to talk to people, but Marc should still be at CNN, if you ask my opinion.
And thank God there was a Black-owned, independent media company there to pick up our good brother when he was misunderstood by other outlets.
Talk about it.
Why is that part not being said by pro-Black native land people? I'm getting confused.
Yeah,
Marc was a free agent. Y'all had a chance to bring him home.
And didn't.
You didn't.
That's a good point.
So don't sit up on your platforms all pretentious as one of the Charlemites. That's how I know you. I know you as one of the Charlemites and get to saying what Marc should and shouldn't be doing. Please.
All right, so I hope a lot of y'all enjoyed this video because this is something that I've been focusing on when it comes to the addition of Marc Lamont Hill on this podcast. I told you guys that a lot of the Black intellectual community, they didn't like Marc being on this podcast, and that argument with Flip had that community really talking about Marc's place on Joe Budden's pod. Now, we have Joe responding to a podcast that is full of, I want to say, ex-Black politicians and I think an attorney. I just really discovered this podcast. It's called Native Land Pod, but these are four very intelligent Black people discussing important topics. And they had a few things to say about Flip versus Marc, and I'll play you this right now.
To me, it was clear that his co-host felt small. And, you know, even him saying you use tricky words and Marc responding with, I use words that are tricky to you. And anytime somebody, I think, cannot take to be questioned or responds with a full temper tantrum, it is always about that other person, not about, like, it wasn't Marc. He didn't do anything. And I think it's important for people to see that, yes, you can still be an intellectual and demand your respect. That doesn't make you soft. Because I don't want to make it just about Marc.
Yeah.
But Marc is there because people turn their back on him. Marc should not be on this podcast. He gets the opportunity to talk to people, but Marc should still be at CNN, if you ask my opinion. Marc should have had a contract. As soon as CNN said, we're letting you go, somebody should have snatched Marc up and said that. And I just think they put dumb people on TV sometimes just because you have more likes and followers, and they don't celebrate our intellectualism.
I take great issue with that podcast. And its treatment of Marc, and I was wondering when he was gonna snap. You know, there's another clip that I don't know if you all saw where Marc announces very vulnerably that he's lost almost all of his colleagues that were reporting in Gaza. Sharing vulnerably, he's lost all his people. And Joe Budden's transition, not this other guy, I don't know everybody's name, but not this other guy. Joe Budden's transition is like, and Young Thug, like, just no mention of like, are you okay? Yeah. How do you feel?
I think that there is an added value to having someone like Marc Lamont Hill being there. You know, I watch the show every now and then, Andrew. I can't consume everything all the time, but I do watch it every now and then. And, you know, I know, I think his name is Flip. I guarantee you, I know 10 Flips. I know one Marc Lamont Hill, because that's just the level of intellect. But I know 10 Flips at minimum. I'm not in a position to give Marc Lamont Hill any advice. But what I would tell him if I talked to him today or tomorrow, and I might hit him up on text, is what my daddy told me, which is that you never argue with a fool because people watching can't tell the difference.
And so Joe responded, and we're going to see what Joe had to say. And I got a few things to say. So lock in. Like the video and subscribe. I'll see y'all in a bit.
Angela Rye, I totally accept your non-invite to your platform and would like to add on to it.
Wait, she disinvited you from her?
No. She said everybody up here wouldn't be welcome.
Who wants to go up there?
Oh, man, I can't go somewhere that I didn't want to go.
Well, see,
I didn't even know they existed.
Why don't we tell the audience what happened?
Fuck.
Okay, go ahead.
Tell him.
Yeah.
I thought y'all was gonna do it, but
I never heard Marc Lamont Hill speechless.
So
get your hand out your pocket, nigga. He just made noises.
In the aftermath of my contretemps with Flip last week,
who?
He's doing it now. He's doing it.
Yeah, he's doing tricky words.
Tricky words.
There was a lot of media that came out, but one of the big pods that I saw respond to it, and I just heard it this morning on the way in, was the Native Land Podcast, which is a podcast with Andrew Gillum, former mayor of Tallahassee, Angela Rye, formerly of CNN Media Mogul.
Mark, if you're going to do it and give your friends a whole bunch of respect.
Tiffany Cross, and I gave y'all a chance to do it.
All right, yo, check this out. Check this out. No, because he's being too respectful for me.
We gonna turn up. He's supposed to. We gonna turn up.
Yeah, but I don't want to. They podcasts are so big and say they last.
Anyway, let me finish the thought. I'll just say this. They put a podcast out responding to what happened between Flip and me, and they offered different perspectives on that. I thought they were generally respectful, and I agree with a lot of what was said. Some of it I had a slightly different take on, but they were basically using this as a kind of launching pad to talk about a bigger issue, which they saw was a dumbing down of America. I think the episode was called the Joe Budden podcast and the dumbing down of America.
Shit.
And they were saying that the exchange between me and Flip is evidence of that. Now, as I said earlier in the show, I don't agree with that part of it.
It's just not in his head, so I think he does.
Yeah.
Well, that's where problem number one arises for me, and then I'll toss it back to Mark. You title it that, and then admittedly say, I don't look at that, because that's not my ministry. See, and that's why I appreciate what Andrew had to say, because he said, one, I'm not familiar with this podcast. I don't watch the clips from this podcast. I assume this is not their frequency every week.
He did.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. That's why you need niggas with brains around. Thank you. That indeed is not our frequency every week. He went on to say, I also trust Marc and his ability to gauge where he should and shouldn't be, who he should connect with and who he shouldn't, to kind of filter out where he's safe at. So I took offense to the sentiment. I took offense to a few sentiments, but one is that I don't love Marc down. I take offense to that. I've never met these people. I've been in the business a long time. If we've never met, I'm not taking your content and then just assuming that I know about you or your character. It's in bad taste, which is why you'll never see a clip titled up here, Angela Rye, anything. No, I'm not watching the content. What you talking about is not my vibe, and that's where the facts stop for me.
See, Flip is my friend, though. You understand what I'm saying? And so they were shooting at Flip a lot. It was unfair. And then we get into these spaces where, no, Flip may not have 3 degrees. I've been to Flip house. Flip got an elevator in his house. I've been around Flip. Flip generates more income than a lot of these so-called academics do. You understand what I'm saying? So when you
Flip kid is well spoken.
So when Flip's children are mannerly, they're polite as fuck, and they good kids that you would think grew up in fucking Livingston, New Jersey, somewhere, Short Hills.
So I don't have time for y'all looking at content and deciding which departments people are bright in and people are not. Who the fuck are you people? See, hold up, Marc. It ain't time for you to fucking cop a plea for your friends. That's a dead serious. Like, who the fuck are you? See, I'm cool with content lands being different too. Some of y'all only get on camera with the intellectual perfection areas that you bright in. I don't pride myself in doing it that way. Like, I do things in real time. I allow people to see my shortcomings. I allow people to see where I made an error in judgment. I allow people to see, I'm a fan of redemption. I allow people to see growth. I'm not just trying to only pop up when shit is good. I think that there's a certain courage in that. I think that takes a certain level of tact and boldness. So again, for you people to look at Flip, y'all don't come on. I don't know if everybody's so bright in they fucking relationships.
No,
I don't know if everybody's having a blast with their parental situation. I don't know what your situation with your fucking kids or your siblings is like. I don't know what you like in social settings. All I know is what I see from the content. You quote unquote intellectuals seem to be pulling a lot from places that, again, like it said, you admittedly know very little about. It just comes off a way.
Yeah,
it comes off a way.
It's like if you put,
especially when you pretending to especially when you pretending to do all of this super black kumbaya shit. I got a problem with that too. I got a problem with the people that masquerade as kumbaya, super black, all for the people, and will be the first one to tell you how we're different. I come on here every week and say we're less different than we all like. We just got different ideologies. But I'm not going to keep listening to people who in 25 years, I've never said the name Angela Rye. I don't give a fuck about nothing y'all talking about over there. I'm saying that respectfully. I don't come on here and say a word about any of that shit. I expect reciprocity. You could have titled that clip totally different.
That's true.
Don't claim to be super pro-black and then take the #1 black urban podcast and put that type of stink on it because you think you got a friend over here. That don't give you a license.
I don't think it's that. I don't think if Marc was here or not. I think
if Marc was here, they would never have those conversations.
No,
they having those conversations because their friend is up here.
No, they having those conversations because Marc is deemed an academic and an intellectual, which you
well,
are.
He is, not
which,
deemed,
no,
he
no,
is.
No, I said what you are. So now it's, why is he even there? Like Angela Yee said, Marc, just come home.
Angela Rye.
Pardon me, Angela Rye said, Marc, just come home.
That's the other beef.
But then you go on to say how diverse Marc is. So I think that that's an insult because you don't put Marc in a box. Marc is home.
And thank God there was a black-owned, independent media company there to pick up our good brother when he was misunderstood by other outlets.
Talk about it.
Why is that part not being said by pro-black native land people? I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
Marc was a free agent. Y'all had a chance to bring him home.
And didn't.
You didn't.
That's a good point.
So don't sit up on your fucking platforms all pretentious as one of the Charlemites. That's how I know you. I know you as one of the Charlemites and get to saying what Marc should and shouldn't be doing. Please. If you didn't discuss this podcast before, if by your own admittance you know very little about it, shit, the woman Tiffany said at least 5 times that she don't give a fuck about these other opinions. All I'm asking is that you act like it.
Well, that's why.
That's what I'm saying, Marc. Mute up, man. Mute the fuck up. Honestly, that's what I'm saying. I love Marc.
We all
facts. We do.
I do too.
/ I learned from Marc.
Also,
do as well.
/ I want and need Marc here. It's all of those things.
But you know what? It's a flip side to that coin. Marc is way more decorated than you academically. Marc can learn something from everybody else up here. And that was one of the things. I know.
And that's
this
academia.
is not your sentiment.
That's intellectualism, that's academia.
And it was almost like, what the fuck is he up there for? He's just hanging around with these hooligans that he can't take nothing from. And that's not the case, my nigga.
And how about we encourage more conversations with each other just about how, and I'm not necessarily saying us and y'all, I'm just saying with each other about how we can be of assistance to each other. Why don't we not always try to drive a wedge in between some shit that already has enough wedges?
Exactly.
If you so fucking intellectual, 1, how about understand context and nuance? You could have made that point again without saying this pod. 2, I never heard Marc say I'm a fucking super intellectual. I never heard him say that. I never heard Michael fucking Dyson. You know my man.
Eric Dyson.
Eric Dyson. Michael Eric Dyson. You know the fuck I'm talking about, the nigga. You know the fuck I'm talking about. I never heard him say, I'm an intellectual. I never heard that. I never heard Neil deGrasse come say, I'm an intellectual. The intellectuals teach. They're not running around getting an erection or getting a wet clit from self-identifying. And it's a lot of that going on that I'm only seeing since Marc got here. You motherfuckers can go back to the griot. Y'all can go back to the spiritual healer or wherever the fuck you get your news from. Again, y'all don't have that license because your fucking friend is up here. And he could have been there.
I think they all love black people. And I think they all care about all of us up here. I do.
Sound like it then.
I'm just hear me out. So I think first, in terms of the title of the episode, I agree. I wouldn't have titled it that because I think that doesn't set the table for the kind of conversation we want to have. It alienates people from the beginning. I agree with that. I think Angela's a dear friend.
And it just appears a little. Like my name
it's
is
clickbaity.
Never,
What the fuck are you talking about?
Clickbaity.
It's clickbaity,
we know what it
bro.
is. Like you are their friend, right? So they're invested in a you and Flip back and forth. And I guess y'all are on this podcast, but it's behind a paywall. It wasn't made. But like, why is my name even attached to whatever this is? One, and two, why would you want to cast that type of light? Because also they showed that other clip where you were saying rest in peace to your friends that were lost, and we handled it very poorly. I admit we handled that. I handled that very poorly. But again, don't tell me that you all pro-black and then want to highlight the very, very, very worst of the best black podcast that there is.
Angela's a dear friend. I mean, a dear friend. And she cares about me. And so I think we're going to be passionate in defense of our friends. And that might become the top priority. So I do understand that. And Tiffany, all of them are friends, but Angela's a close friend.
Fuck out of here.
Got a question for you.
Fuck out of here.
Let me get it.
I'm going to ask a question after that.
Yeah, get it. So I think that's part of it as well. I heard their comments a little more nuanced than that. What I heard Tiffany say was, when she was pushed on it, was, I'm not saying people shouldn't be everywhere talking. She just said that's not my ministry. I don't want to be in those spaces. I think everybody recognizes that that we have to be in all the space, that we shouldn't just be in academia, or we shouldn't just be on mainstream legacy media. I don't think they're saying I shouldn't be here. I think they're saying I shouldn't be here if it's not healthy or safe.
She literally said.
No, but let me finish the thought.
Marc cleaned it up.
I shouldn't be here if it's.
But I'm not gonna let you lie on what she said. Tiffany said you should not be here.
Right.
Verbatim. Mm-hmm. That's not me freestyle.
No, I'm with you, but
and that Flip shouldn't be heard.
And hear what I'm saying. Then there was a pushback, and Bob saying by the end of the conversation, I think what they were trying to say that wasn't communicated well, I agree with you, was I shouldn't be here if it's not safe or healthy or productive. I think the problem is if you don't watch the show fully, from the clips you might think that, but if you watch the show, you realize that it's not. And that's what I'm saying. I think we have to watch more and study more. And again, I think part of that is just the being protective of your friends. I got fired by CNN in 2018. No,
ain't nobody call.
Things wasn't calling. You know what I mean? It's almost like that. It's almost like that Whoopi Goldberg thing I was talking about before. It's like all y'all mad that I'm with this person, but none of y'all wanted to date me. You know what I mean? And so it's like,
I was perturbed about that.
And that's not a critique of Angela and them, because they're not in the hiring business. But I'm saying, like, these companies, these corporations, even some of the fans are like, why are you here? Why are you this? Like, because I took some pretty passionate stands that y'all tell me to take, and then when I take them, it comes at a price. And
goddamn right,
yeah. And I'm willing to pay that price. And I'm always grateful to you for opening the door, knowing that it's not an easy choice to hire me. It's easy in some ways. In some ways, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? And so I never take that for granted. So I think it's a lot of moving parts there. I do think America's getting dumbed down. I do think we need to have that conversation.
I agree.
I just didn't want Flip to be even
the
poster
face
boy for
mascot, poster boy
because it's not
that conversation, because it's unfair.
I love this conversation. I do. I really do. And it opens up some conversations that I know we're not going to have on this video, that I know we're not going to have or see on the Joe Budden podcast. And I don't necessarily think the Joe Budden podcast is the place to talk about anti-intellectualism and the dumbing down of America. But I do love that they can get to a space and have that conversation for 5 or 10 minutes. But what I mean is, it's not going to be, something that they're going to touch on every episode. And I'm fine with that. And before I even start talking about my notes, I want to say, I've told y'all this multiple times, I love Marc being on the podcast. And as Joe said, he needed Marc to be on the podcast to speak to that sentiment. And I said this on the Native Pod's comment section, and I had no issue with anything that they said. I think by the end of the conversation, they were at a point where they could understand why Marc was on the pod. Yes, there was a young lady by the name of Tiffany, and she had some issues, and she wasn't backing down from it. But I think, as Marc tried to say, she was just saying, it's not my ministry to, quote unquote, dumb down myself to talk to certain type of people. And I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. But I do feel like people like the individuals on the Native Pod, Angela Rye, Andrew Gilliam. I have their names right here. Bakari Sellers and Tiffany. They should try to go to some of these spaces that are a little more popular, because if you don't have the Marc Lamont Hills on these platforms, then a lot of people like myself who are not searching for those important messages, we don't get a chance to hear that. It might not be in our algorithm. And I said something to that sentiment on the Native Pod's YouTube channel when they talked about this. And I feel like that's what Marc does. He gives a lot of the Joe Budden podcast listeners a chance to hear a little something about politics or important things that are going on in the Black community that a lot of us normally don't hear, because we might not be that inclined to politics and things of that nature. Okay. Also, like I said, I listened to the Native Pod talk about this situation, the Native Land Pod. Sorry if I'm, mispronouncing the pod. And I'm not that familiar with Angela Rye, but I know her name. So you see, after I listened to Joe and them talk about her, I'm like, oh, that's Angela Rye. I've heard of her before, and I do appreciate the work that she does. But I also think, especially Angela Rye, and Marc said this, she was defending her friend. And when they talk about that clip, and I love that Joe admitted that, he didn't handle that well when Marc was talking about a lot of his colleagues overseas have passed away covering certain situations. You can tell the emotion kind of came out of Angela, and she was like, I'm thinking about Marc's mental health. And so, yeah, I do think they were defending Marc as a friend. They did say Marc was going to go on their podcast, so I'm going to tune in for that episode as well. And I feel like that's kind of what Joe did in this segment. He defended Marc too, because I think he felt like, well, if you know how intelligent and how brilliant Marc is, don't feel like he would ever sit on a platform that he felt was beneath him, or that he felt like he couldn't do any good work in. And also, if you know how brilliant he is, once again, why would you think he couldn't handle himself in this space? And so I don't want it to be lost on anybody from the Black intellectual community to think that Marc doesn't have nuance. And this is something from my notes. And a lot of topics that you might feel like are beneath Marc, he's very interested in. Marc is a big hip hop fan. Marc can add to the, Saweetie got a madam conversation or any other things that are brought up on this podcast. And I don't feel like when Marc is speaking on a lot of different topics, it makes him sound dumb or it makes him sound ignorant. I think he actually brings a lot of intelligence to a lot of ignorant topics. And is always kind of making sure, hey, we remember we talk about people in this light. We don't go too far. We don't, try to shit on Black people too much in these topics. And I think he does all of that in a very incredible way. And I think that speaks to what Joe was talking about when he's like, yo, Angela Rye and the crew, trust your friend. If he's your friend, know what he's going to do in this position. I get it. Joe was upset by what they said, and he should defend Queenzflip, but I don't feel like the Native Land Pod is against Black people. And look, Marc said they aren't in a position to hire me. And the young lady, Tiffany, she brought this up as well, that she felt like when Marc was fired from CNN, and I like how Marc said, he said he was fired from CNN in 2018, and now it's 2025, and he's just getting a job on the Joe Budden podcast. But where were all of these Black intellectuals when he needed their help to get another job? And he had people to feed and kids, a wife to take care of and kids to feed. And like he said, he understands that Angela and the rest of the pod members, maybe they weren't in a position to hire anybody on their podcast, but how many people in the Black intellectual community were trying to help him get on his feet? Or was it just business as usual? But I do appreciate that Joe Budden, a Black company, gave Marc a platform. They gave him a platform. And anybody in the black intellectual community who is mad at Marc or mad at Joe because Marc is on the podcast, I feel like you're doing the community a disservice. You should be happy that a black man helped another black man get on his feet when CNN and all these other places didn't want to touch him. And I would actually love to see both of these pods sit down and have a panel and speak about how we can fix these things. And obviously Rome wasn't built in a day, but it's a start. And then I really don't want this to become some back and forth. I'm kind of hoping that the Native Land Pod doesn't really, address this with, any type of negativity. They might not address it at all. But I don't want to see two black podcasts who I feel like have good intentions going back and forth. But the last thing I'll say is Marc has admitted to being an asshole. And honestly, I think intelligent people, they're some of the best joke makers, okay? Joke tellers. And so Marc admits that he can be an asshole and he can crack fun at people. So I don't want people to just feel like, well, Marc is always up there and he's the most innocent one. Marc has said it plenty of times. He's up there. He's shooting. He's cracking jokes all the time, letting them fly. So I don't want people to miss that either. I don't want people to just say, well, Marc is up there getting bullied because he's smart. I don't feel like that. I feel like Marc can hold his own. And I did appreciate, this is the last thing I'll say. I know I've said that 30 times. I did appreciate that on the Native Land Pod. They appreciated that Marc was able to stand up for himself. And I like how all of these people with probably various degrees, they said that, hey, sometimes, in these spaces, just because I'm intelligent, it doesn't mean that I'm going to let you walk all over me. And I would tell a lot of y'all to go watch this segment on the Native Land Pod. I will agree the title was crazy. It's Joe Budden's podcast and the dumbing down of America. And I will admit that, yeah, it does come off as attention seeking. And I will also say that for these group of black intellectuals, it did seem like they were clout chasing a little bit, but it's what everybody does in the space. But I also think when you want to get in the space and you want to get in the mud, don't act like you don't want to get some dirt on your shoes too. And I don't know who's in charge of the titles and the thumbnails, but you put Joe on the thumbnail, you put Marc on the thumbnail, and then you kind of make it seem like the Joe Budden podcast is the main source of dumbing down America. Yeah, you want some views. You want to get a little clout off of this. But that's what we all doing, okay? So let me know what y'all think about this. Also, by the way, I did like some of their takes on AI too, because AI is dumbing us down a lot too. But it's also a tool that I want black people to use so we don't get left behind. They talked about a lot of stuff on that podcast. I thought it was cool. I subscribed. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Like the video and subscribe. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.